Hello and welcome to the Fit and Fabulous podcast at NEH. I'm your host today, Brooklyn. And then with my co-host today, I've got Coach Amanda and Coach Camille. Today we are going to be diving into the side of fitness that I feel like maybe gets skipped over too frequently, too often, and that is emotional eating and how to overcome it. We're going to talk about not only our personal journeys of emotional eating, but we're going to dive into, maybe some of our clients and what they've come up against and how we have helped our clients overcome these things and how we've overcome emotional eating too. So if you are struggling with emotional eating, binge eating, or just overconsumption of food and you feel like you struggled and you kind of lose control around food, this is definitely the podcast you are wanting to tune into. So let's go ahead and get started with this emotional eating training. I think this is a really good one because all three of us have struggled with emotional eating. I know, Amanda, that's a big reason why you came to me in the first place. You were struggling with binge eating. I struggled with binge eating. My mom struggled with binge eating. So, yeah, I'm just gonna open the floor. Let's go ahead and dive in. What is let's kind of dive into the mindset of someone who struggles with emotional eating and binge eating. What do you guys notice, like the number one common theme with someone who struggles with emotional eating or binge eating?
To me, it's like an automatic escape. It's just a coping mechanism that we have things that happen in our life that we don't even realize it happens, but we just go to the food. It's something that we've learned over the years. It calms, it soothes us. And before we know it, we've ate just a ton of food. To me, it's usually sweets. That's kind of my trigger food. And it used to really calm me down. It still does, but I've learned to kind of control it. I still have my times, but I've really learned through the years, but I've had years to learn that, many years. But it's a true coping mechanism. It's an addiction, I think, that we struggle with. We don't have other things, but food is something that helps us cope and calm, and then you're just knee deep in the pantry, and then you feel so bad afterwards, like so bad. And that's the worst feeling in the world. But I remember, like what you said before we even started, Amanda, how you talked about emotional eating. Like, that was pretty cool. If you can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I love what you said. You hit the nail on the head. I couldn't put it into exact words. It's an escape, instant escape. It really is. It feels good in the moment, and even though you know deep down that you're going to regret it, you're going to have feelings of guilt, shame. You're going to beat yourself up, talk negatively to yourself unless you have the right tools. But in that moment, when you have feelings of like inadequacy, trauma, stress, just so much going on, that feeling, it just takes it all away for a moment. But this is where having a good coach, someone who's been in your shoes, not just one who has the education, but someone who actually gets it, has been down in that well, in that deep, dark place where you feel like nobody gets it. And, you need the tools. You're not weak. You're not, a bad person. You're not terrible. You just don't have the right tools. And it really makes me sad because I hear so many women beat themselves up and they've had programs where coaches didn't know how to help them because they weren't trained. Might be amazing coaches, but they just know the calories in, calories out in the movement. They don't know how to help them with the mindset. So a lot of times women are like, I just can't get it under control. It's me. But then I'll talk to them about like their past diets and I'm like, well, you were eating how many calories in your last diet? So on top of not having anyone to help you with your stress, your trauma, how to deal with certain emotions that come up, now you're adding restriction. Yeah, it's like the perfect storm. It's not them. I tell them it's not you, it was them, the program, because if anyone that's ever dealt with binge eating and then you add restriction on top of it, it's like amplified. I think Coach Brooklyn's talked about this when she's had other programs she tried before she created Fierce Queen. Like when you restrict yourself, and so that's the physical part of wanting to binge, and then the emotional part, it's almost like inevitable. So this is where having someone who understands how to help you get you out of that, like out of your head, and realize it's not something that you have to live with forever. You really don't.
I like that a lot. I think a lot of women, you know, I feel like this time of year is a good time to talk about this because this is probably where binging starts, is kind of towards the tail end of January, because women are doing really extreme and probably very restrictive approaches because they're like, oh, it's January 1st. I've got to be rigid. I've got to be strict. And so then they're rolling into really highly restrictive dietary approaches and maybe even like training approaches, which is causing them to feel it probably at this point, um, really, unless you're one of our clients, right? Like really, I don't know, just deprived. And anytime you feel deprived for too long, you kind of go into a headspace of like, oh, whatever. Like, I ate a cookie, I might as well just finish the whole box, right? And it's almost like this loss of control, because of the over restriction. So I see this a lot with women coming to me around January, February, is they spent the first half of January restricting themselves. And then they come to the realization of like, actually, I can't do this anymore. It's causing me to overconsume. I'm overeating frequently. But I think a lot of women are stuck in this cycle for so long and they've normalized it. But whether it be because other people have normalized it for them or they just are like, this is just who I am. Like, and I'm gonna be honest, like I've worked with a lot of clients and I know Amanda, you told me this when we first started. You're like, I just binge eat. That's just who I am. And I'm like, well, not really. Like, it's a coping skill. And also it might be a coping skill, but also is due to your lifestyle factors like over restriction because you spent so long dieting. As did I. Like I only know this because I went through it myself. And so you spend so much time overly restricting yourself and then you most likely lack coping skills. Of course you're going to be a binge eater and emotional eater. Um, Unfortunately, and it's I shouldn't say unfortunately. I say fortunately there's hope and there is a way to overcome it. It's not a magic fix, it's not a magic pill. It's and even I even have clients who are on GLP-1s who still, if they are not doing the foundational work of working on their binge eating, they will still binge even on a GLP-1. And the reason why, it's not always a hormonal issue. It's not a GLP-1 issue, right? Sometimes it's a psychological problem. Sometimes it's a psychological and a stress response. And so just because like I have some women, they're like, well, I'm on a GLP-1, like I'm never going to struggle with binge eating again. And I'm like, yeah, probably not unless you are working on your foundational habits with your relationship with food. Because if you're still under eating and you're still overly restricting and you still are only using food to help you cope with stress and any emotion that comes up, it doesn't matter how high of a dose of GLP-1 you're getting on, you're always going to that's going to be your fallback point. And so I always tell my clients like who struggle with binge eating, I'm like, we have to build this foundation because if we don't build a foundation of you having a better relationship with food, you having better coping skills, and you no longer restricting, you're always going to fall back to this place. Like you're always going to come back and you're going to slide back. But I will say my clients like yourself, Amanda, who have like done the foundational work and have built the pillars of better relationship with food, no longer having foods that are off limits and being able to eat whatever you want, not having a too overly restrictive caloric intake, having an abundant mindset when it comes to food. Also like having ways to deal with your stress outside of food, like that's a skill in itself. And for a lot of us, we've never learned that skill. You build that foundation, and that's really where the physique starts to improve, the body fat starts to drop, and you really start to get to this place of like, oh, I never thought I could even get here. But a lot of women skip that step. They think, oh, I just diet and exercise and I'm going to get to this amazing place, but you cannot get up here without doing the foundational work. Or you might get up here, but you'll fall back down really quickly and then you'll be back, 20, 30 pounds and you'll be like, geez, why am I back here? I see a lot of competitors doing this, but I also see a lot of women in the diet culture doing this because they didn't do a lot of foundational work. And so they'll lose a bunch of weight. And we see it too with the GLP-1s, right? Lose a bunch of weight, and then gain it right back. And the reason why that's happening, it's because of the lack of the foundational work. So that was a really long explanation, but to kind of come off what you said, Amanda and Mom, it's essential. Like you can't get to where, Amanda's at, my mom's at, I'm at, my sister's at, like any of our clients are at. All of my clients, we go through foundational work habits in the very beginning. Not all of my clients struggle with emotional eating and binge eating, but they kind of do. Um, they either deal with it with food or like alcohol, and we work on it in the same route. Because some of my clients, though they might stop drinking, then they start turning to food. And so then I have to bring awareness, and I'm like, hey, look, you're using this and this to deal with your stress. What do you think about that? So anyways, I digress. I'll let you guys pipe in your two thoughts on that.
Well, I love how you just said it is who I am, like that. To me, when you guys both said that, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so sad, because we do label ourselves, and we do that for years. We think this is who I am. This is what I do when I'm stressed. I just do this. I need to be happy. I need to stop trying to be somebody else. And it's, I think the coolest thing about your life is you can write your own story. You can always rewrite your own story. You can always make yourself somebody different, and the things that you learn and relearn. And one of the coolest things, as I started, I've done a lot of things in my life. I've trained a lot of different ways. But when I really started lifting heavy and I really wanted to compete, which meant I had to totally change my lifestyle. I had to stop falling back on the behaviors that I had for years. Like I could diet, I could do anything, but then I'd always fall back into the behaviors that I've had for since I was little. I think I've always overate when I was stressed. When I was in high school, I'd go home and I'd eat. Thank goodness I had a fast metabolism. We just have good genetics, and I was lucky that way. But I've had these behaviors forever. And so when things would get hard in life, I would turn to food, and you just kind of do this yo-yo. And one of the biggest things I think that got wrapped into my head was, Camille, you can have a sweet every day. Camille, you can eat some of these foods every single day. Don't deprive yourself. Because every time I would do a diet, um, and I would deprive myself of stuff, I'd be starving. And I could do it for so long. And then I'd want that food that I had loved my whole life. I needed it. It helped me with whatever it was I was going through. And I don't need a ton of it, but I could eat a little bit of it and eat the food that I actually liked. Like that to me is one of the biggest mindsets about Fierce Queen Fitness and how these girls train is find the food that you love, eat a treat every day, make it something that you can do and look forward to, and not resent having to be on this nutrition course, this diet course. But what they do is it's nutrition, and it's learning the things that you like that you can stay with, make it a lifestyle. And you think in the beginning, you can't make it a lifestyle because this is a diet. I mean, this is something I'm learning. It's a diet. It's just another thing I'm going to try. No, you can really make it a lifestyle. You can make it something that you're going to love, and you can make it something a part of you. And instead of saying, this is who I am, you can start saying, this is who I'm going to be. Like, let's do this. And it gets to where you get excited about your food and, oh my gosh, like I can eat this. This is the coolest thing. So instead of getting into the cycle every time you diet, you stop the cycle and you just eat what you like, and you don't crave it like you used to with other diets that you've been on. It becomes a true lifestyle, a real change. And it's something you can implement every single day to where it becomes a habit. What is it? A habit takes 21 days. And after that, you just keep going day by day, and you're like, this is cool. I'm doing this. So that's been one of the coolest things is my behaviors wouldn't take over. I started learning new ways. And then on top of that, you have to learn things, other things to do, like when you're craving food and you just want more and more. Um, Go on a walk, call a friend, do some of these other things. You can journal, you can read a book, you can go tanning. So there's just a lot of other things you can do to implement. Like in the beginning, when you start anything, like your calories get reduced a little bit, but then they get moved up and up and up, and you can carb cycle. There's so many different ways that your coach will do it for you that's very specific that will get your body moving. And so, yeah, I think the way these girls do it is pretty cool because it becomes a true lifestyle, something you look forward to and not dread or resent, or you want to just get off of for the weekend. It's something you want to do because you really do start seeing results and your body feels good. So that was long, but there
No,
you
well
go.
said. I love
That
it.
was
I love everything you said. I love how you said that when you're binge eating, you describe it as like an almost like an adjective about yourself. But then we have to like try to go in as coaches and put it in your head that like reframe it. Like, no, binge eating is a verb. It doesn't have to be an adjective. Doesn't mean it's what you
Mhm.
are for the rest of your life. It's something that you do to cope with stress. And how can we work on that? And it's so exciting. Even now, I've been coaching for I don't even remember how long, but getting texts or getting a message from a client. I got one the other day, and she was like, "I went out to eat with my family. I didn't overeat. I didn't binge. I ate some foods that I love. I didn't feel guilty, and I wasn't bloated," because she's a lot of gut health issues. And
Mhm.
that's because we do the two things. You have to work on the emotional part. So I've been giving her like some routines around bedtime when she's stressed, how to unwind. And then we do the
Yeah.
physical part, which is like you said, no restriction. So she's a
Mhm.
salty girl. Some girls like sugar, some like salt. So I said, all right, every day I'll help you plan the first couple weeks. We're going to go in and we're going to give you a couple, 200 to 300 calories each day of your favorite salty food. And she was like, I could tell, like, taken back, like, didn't want to question, but was kind of like, is this going to work? Am I going to lose weight? And not only is she seeing inches drop, but now because she's not binging, because she's not overeating, and the food noise is gone, her bloating is gone because she's like, I'm not doing this restrict, binge cycle. My body's just like responding, and I'm getting food that I love every day, and I feel great. I'm like, yes. And she just started, I want to say 3 weeks ago with that, and she's already like, this is amazing because I can like, I'm allowed to eat certain foods, so I'm not stressed about it, and I'm not binging when I do see it. She goes, I actually had some pretzels, but I had like 15 like small pretzel sticks, and I put the rest away because I eat them every day now, and I don't binge on them and eat half the bag. I'm like, bingo. It's not
Yeah.
you, it's the approach you were doing. You can have what you want. You just have to have someone who understands how to work that into your program.
Yeah, I think that that's a big problem too. Like a lot of women will like find, coaches and trainers, and this is a big reason why like I've stuck with my coach as long as I have because I needed someone who allowed me to be flexible because one of the big things that got me in a bad place was following really rigid dietary approaches, like having to eat like really strict foods that I didn't really like. I remember there was one point in time where I was like on a diet where I was doing like tilapia and asparagus for every meal,
Oh,
wasn't allowed to eat sugar. I had like little to no carbohydrates, rice, like it was just so overly restrictive. Um, and over time, like you mentioned with that client, like you do that for long enough, you're gonna have this mindset of, well, I had four, pretzel sticks, might as well eat the whole damn bag because I can't have this tomorrow. So, like, what if that shifted, and what if you were like actually able to eat those things within moderation, of course? Like you were able to have a handful of pretzels, or, I have chocolate every day. I have like one or two fun size like candy bars every day, which can like equate to sometimes a full candy bar, but whatever. I'll like have like one after lunch and like one after dinner. And people are always blown away. Even when I'm like deep in prep, I'll still do stuff like that. And they're like, why do you do that? Like, and I don't understand. Like, it's so bad for you. I'm like, I could give two shits if it's bad for me because you know what it's good for? It's good for my mental health and it's good to help me stay consistent. It's how I've gotten to the level of like conditioning and leanness at this point because I don't overly restrict myself. I also don't blow up after I'm done with like competition season. I'm only up, what, 4, 5, 6 pounds from my last stage weight, which was like close to 4.5 months ago. So, if you're following someone who you always see like their weight fluctuates like 20, 30, 40 pounds, they probably don't have the skills. And I'm just going to say it, they probably don't have the skills developed to actually fully help you not only reach your goal, but maintain it. And a lot of that has to do with the approaches coming into it. Um, and that's kind of a big deal when you're working with someone or you're working with a coach. If they like, I was like, Manda told me that you told me that story a while back about how you told your last nutritionist you're working with before you came to me that like you were struggling with binge eating, and she just tell you to just follow the plan better? Like,
Yeah, I said, what should I do? I'm struggling, and I was really trying. I mean, like I like messed up 2 days out of 2 months. Like to me, that's really
it's
considerable,
amazing.
right? When you're
Yeah,
binge,
right.
that's like that's
Not
amazing. That's
bad.
what I thought. Thanks. And she goes, well, it just seems like you can't adhere to the plan, right? So maybe you just need to maintain. And I was like,
Oh man.
wow. I was like, that's so. And she was really
Yeah.
nice overall, but I think because she never struggled with binge eating, clearly, she never struggled with weight. She was always very fit and lean and just didn't want to put muscle on, which is fine. But then it didn't help me in my situation because she's like, I don't know where to go from here.
That's really hard because those are the most frustrating people to work with because like they don't they've never like been in a place where they've struggled with emotional eating or binge eating. Of course, like, you know, it's usually it is unfortunately sometimes the women who are genetically blessed. And I know, Mom, you said something, you're like, well, I have a fast metabolism, but you got to a point where your metabolism wasn't
Oh,
working for you anymore because the binge eating was taking over, the stress
mhm.
was taking over, and you just piled on the weight. And you know that's what a lot of women, they get to like their 40s and they get to their 50s, and all maybe these habits that you had in your 20s, like the binge eating that you used to do or the restrictive dieting, like maybe it worked in your 20s, maybe even in your 30s, but you will get to a point where your body will like get to a point where it will say, we can't keep doing this. Like this metabolically is not working for us anymore. We can't be dieting and then over consuming all the time. And so this is where, like, you know, one of the big things we do in Fierce Queen is we go in and we help our clients not only from a mindset perspective, but we also help them work on like making sure they're eating enough calories throughout the day so they don't want to overeat, right? Like that's a big deal too. You know, so I guess we could kind of talk about that. What are some of the things that we do with our clients um to help them like from the very start if they're really struggling with emotional eating? Like one of the first things we do, let's kind of take everybody step through step what we do with our clients or what we've done with ourselves that have made a difference.
Well, I'll
Amanda?
start. If that's okay. So actually, but I was taught from Brooklyn because I was a client and then got trained to be a coach. So I got to see from both sides. And so I have been in that dark place. And first of all, nothing against coaches that haven't been in your shoes because they might be phenomenal at getting you results. But if they've never been there emotionally and they don't understand binge eating, emotional eating, or don't have any idea what it's like to stress eat or even eat out of boredom, it's going to be hard for them to connect with you and to really kind of like get down in that well with you and be like, let me pull you out because I get it, versus just telling you, well, this is how, this is what I want you to do. It's anyone could tell you what to do, but unless they've been there, it's like a whole different level of understanding of, this is what I did. And a lot of times I'll still refer back to when I was a client, so they know they're not being talked down to or talked at, but like talked with. Like we're a
Mhm.
team. I've been exactly where you've been. I know how you're feeling. Let's do this together. There's no shame, you know, be totally vulnerable with your clients. And I think a lot of coaches are really great at telling them what they need to hear, but they don't get vulnerable. I think they feel like it's a weakness, and I don't think it's a weakness. As long as you lead them and you're, direct in a kind approach, like how you want them to get to their goals, like when you work together, I feel like that's where the magic comes in when a client's like, oh, like she understands, and I feel like they open up more. The calls aren't so about small talk, they're more about like, this is what I've been struggling with, and you start to see
Mhm.
this different side of them come out. And I think Coach Brooklyn said
Mhm.
this recently about a client, like it was just very surface level. I think it's what you said of like the calls are great, but it was just like, yeah, I'm fine, husband's fine, kid's fine, but they didn't get to that nitty gritty of like, this is why I'm really struggling. So when a woman opens up to you, a client, and gets really vulnerable, and you hear that in her voice, her struggles, and even like some tears, that's like everything. Like they're pouring their heart out. You really need to be the right person to be there and not just be like, yeah, 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 like, throw some numbers of calories at them, but be there and be like, this is what it's all about. And then between
Um,
that and like I had a client that I said I was curious. I never did this before, so I said, how many calories do you think I'm going to start you at for the program? And she was like 1,500. I was like, higher. And then I told her, I said, because of her height, her weight, her emotional eating, her maintenance was like well over 2,000 easily with
yeah,
no movement because she was like very tall, her weight and everything. I was like, we're not going to start you at a low amount of calories where you have nowhere to go and then you're going to binge eat and it's going to be on us, not you. So I said, you're starting at 2,000. And she was like, what? What? And she was like,
probably
2,000 I'm
scared
starting.
of.
And I was like, yeah, your height, your weight. I was like, even with no movement, your maintenance is way over that. And I told her, and I could tell she was a little skeptical because she's like, I've never heard of starting at that. And she's losing inches. She already lost 2 pounds and she's not binging. And I was like, we don't start our clients at this ridiculous number because if we start you at 14, 1,300, 1,200, when you lose some weight, where are you going to go from that? And that's going to be our fault, not yours. So I know that was
There's
long,
no,
but I hope that made sense.
no,
Like the emotional and the physical part come together.
yeah, you got to start. If someone's struggling with binge eating, that means their total, like if I have a client who comes to me and one of the main reasons why they came to me was because they were emotional eating or binge eating, I will always start them on higher calories, but it's a kind of a mind F for them because they are so afraid of eating more food. It's like, I'm gonna gain so much weight. And I'm like, honey, you're already eating 3 or 4 extra thousand calories per binge. So actually, I bring your food up to 2,000 calories a day. And number one, you're not going to feel hungry anymore. So you're probably not going to binge. Number two, you're going to have a plethora of food you can eat. Your went from eating like 80 grams of carbs a day. Now you can eat like all these carbs. You're going to have a more of an abundant mindset around food. One of the first things I do if I have a client who is coming back from a trip and they're just like, Brooklyn, I cannot get back on track. One of the first things I do, I actually bring their food up. And they're always like, wait, why don't you put me back to where I was before I started? And I said, because you are struggling with a little bit of a scarce mindset, getting back into the swing of things. So we just need to bring your food up. So I'll bring their food up 200 to 400 extra calories a day. And then guess what happens? They start dropping weight. And it's because they are having more of an abundant mindset around food and not this scarce mindset. And it really that is a real thing when it comes to anything in life, right? If we're constantly thinking like something's gonna go bad, something's probably gonna go bad. Like, if we're constantly feeling like deprived around food, we're gonna overconsume and binge because we're gonna feel like, oh, I'm not gonna be able to eat that again. So it comes from a place of calories, but also comes from a place of like not just calories, but like being able to eat all the foods you love. Like my mom mentioned, like I feel like I'm still blown away by the amount of coaches out there who don't train and teach their coaches and their clients how to do macros. I'm always like, why? Like I feel like macros are pretty basic foundational things that you should be teaching your clients because they need to learn how to be flexible. I'll have clients like if they come to me like I just need you to give me a meal plan and like I'll follow it to a T and I'm like I'm not doing that. Like I'll give you a meal plan and you can follow it, but I'm not requiring you to follow it to a T. I would rather teach you macros so you can eat the foods you love because if I give you a list of foods that I like and you don't like them, you're going to get to a point where you're going to be like this sucks. I hate this. And you won't follow it. Like, it's better to be more flexible and to have more of a higher calories and just more of an abundant mindset around food. So, I guess like some of the things that you mentioned, Amanda, we teach is better relationship with food through higher calories. We do not start at extremely low calories. The only time if I will have a client start lower calorie is if they've been doing really like a crazy rigid diet for a while and I have to build their calories back up. I almost have to reverse diet them. But that's rare. That is pretty rare. I don't have that happen often. I will have some clients who come to me like from bad like coaches who like trained them for shows or bad like diets or whatever and I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry, but we have to build their food up." So that would be number one is like make sure if you are dieting that you are not in an extreme and aggressively low caloric place constantly. You can't always be low calorie all the time. You will eventually binge because your body cannot tolerate that low calories all the time. It is a hormonal and a metabolic response too. And then we have a stress response too. I think also like giving your clients a list of foods that you can and can't eat. That what a terrible way to set them up for failure. Like that's really gonna do it. So like having, I don't know, my clients will be like, well, can I have this? I literally will say to them, I'm like, I am not your mom. So I'm not going to tell you what you can and can't do. You make the decision. If you want the cookie, eat the damn cookie and freaking own it and just track it. If you went over because you had too much alcohol, again, I'm not your mom. Like, I am not your mom. So I want you to just log it and track it and freaking own it. But don't sit there and beat yourself up. I'd say that's probably one other thing too is like being kind to yourself if you do overconsume. And yeah, those are kind of the biggest things. What about you, Mom? I feel like I've been talking forever now.
No, I love listening to you guys talk. You guys are just both so good. Um, I just kept thinking you guys raise their calories when they start with you. I think what a kind way to start as a coach. I mean, just it's like you're working with their emotional release of eating. It's that binging thing, but when a coach can put you on higher calories, it calms it all down. I can't imagine starting with that in the very beginning, like how it would just calm it down, like, and then just getting excited, like this is really working because I've watched it work for me. And to me, it's the coolest thing. Yeah. And I love how you said be kind to yourself because that is just so important. Our body hears everything we say, it just hears us. And to me, I'm a big mindset girl because I know what you put into your mind goes to your body and it listens. And it's so important that we tell ourselves good, kind things. And um, yeah, I don't know. That's just what I was thinking through as you guys were talking. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
we'll
about
talk
what I
about
have.
that. Like what's shifted for you? Because I feel like that's a big part of emotional eating is the mind because our mind can take over and like lead us into really we've kind of talked about like the physiological side of things like the side of like why we eat more food and why that's important and also like having more of an abundant mindset around food, but let's talk about the mindset. Like what has shifted for you guys being able to overcome binge eating and emotional eating from a mindset perspective on a day-to-day basis, because we obviously all still have moments where we oops, I overdid it, like I ate a little too much. That honestly, and I remind my clients of that. They're like, well, you probably never overeat. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I definitely have days where I'm like, oops, like, and that's what I tell my clients to call it. Call it a oopsie because it's like you're almost like a child, like, oops, I spilled the milk. Oops, like instead of being like, oh man, there I go, I screwed up again. So, what for you guys or for you, Mom, like, what has been the biggest change with your mindset when it comes to no longer constantly, continuously binge eating or overeating emotionally?
Well, I think one of the big things is in the very beginning, I had a trainer and he said, Camille, you can be the comeback kid. And I'm like, I'm comeback Camille. So I think it's really important to start seeing yourself and viewing yourself because we can always get in those negative headspaces. But if you've got those positive voices that you'll click back into it and you'll be like, no, I'm comeback Camille. And then, I was thinking okay, so I have done Botox and some of those things that girls do. And I remember the girl that was doing it when I was getting to my competition, like I was leaning out like crazy for, hitting the stage. And I'd lost a lot of body fat, like through my temples and places. And she's like, it's interesting because we always view ourselves the same way. But when we start losing weight, our mind, it has a hard time to catch up with our body. She says, so I'll fill it in a little bit up here so you see yourself the way you were. But eventually your mind will catch up and it will see yourself the way it is now. And I'm like, that's how it is with everything. And so, it's true. You need to start putting yourself into those shoes as I don't need to be this person I've been my whole life. I'm freaking kicking ass now and I'm doing this. And to me, when you see somebody start and they have those little teeny wins, Like you can do a little bit more than you did last week. You can go a little bit farther. Your food can be a little bit better. Give yourself those wins and see yourself as this new person. Like our mind, it takes a while to see ourselves as this new person, but that's where it's good with a good mindset. You keep telling yourself those things. You keep looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I've got this. Damn, I'm doing good. Sometimes pictures really, really help. They do. And take pictures of yourself. You don't have to do it like bikini or anything, but start taking pictures of yourself. And you probably do these check ins with your coaches, but you start looking at yourself and seeing the progress that you've made from week to week. And they're huge. Every little win adds up. And it's just like the girl that did my Botox. It takes a while for your mind to catch up, but it will catch up. You just keep doing it day by day. And so to me, mindset is huge because just keep doing those things. If you need to write it down on your mirror or down like as you're driving, where you're driving and you look, say a couple good things about yourself or that you're seeing this week or that you've done this week. Those things are really big because your mind will eventually catch up to what you're doing right now. You're putting the work in. You're doing it day by day, and your mind will catch up. And eventually you'll be like, damn, I'm doing this. And so to me, a mindset is just huge, but it does take a while. I mean, you do this day by day. Some days you're in the grind and you're just doing it. And some days you're like, oh my gosh, like, look at this. Like these changes are happening. So yeah, I think mindset is huge, and just those little wins, they catch up to you. Your mind will see you differently in a couple weeks, if not in 4 weeks. So, yeah.
But I like that you touched on like, but you have to constantly continuously tell yourself like
Mhm.
and focus on the wins. This is something we do before every coaching call with our clients and like our group calls especially. We're always like, what are our wins this week? And if you're always focused on all the things you're not doing good at, you're always going to view yourself as not good enough. But like my mom said, like if you are constantly focused on like, look at all the things you're doing good at, look at these wins, you're going to continue to build off that momentum. It's kind of like what we talked about last week is your mind is a really powerful tool, and it'll either help you get to where you want to be or it'll take you down. So you might as well like start working on how you can better talk to yourself too. And that's a hard thing to do for some people because I I had a roommate in college and I swear she just was always so chipper and she always was like, yay, like a yay girl. Oh, okay. So like a yay girl. I struggle with yay girls because I am not a yay girl. I'm a very just like very kind of mellow, neutral. But one thing I noticed with her as I started observing her is instead of looking at all the bad that was coming at her, like she would have hard things come at her, she was choosing to take the wins and she was choosing to take in like the good things that were happening. And that was such a different shift that I had ever seen or been around because I wasn't really, let's be honest, like in our household, like it was always, oh, well, the weather's bad, everybody's gonna die. Like it was just like, not like you were like that, mom, but we know who else was.
Yeah.
It's really hard to like, it's hard to
Negative.
overcome that because especially if that's kind of the way your brain works. Also an interesting fact is when you think negatively, you actually dopamine actually gets released in your brain and it becomes dopamine, if you didn't know, is an addictive chemical in your brain, so your brain actually becomes addicted to negative thinking. And so I have caught myself there a million times. Luckily I have a husband who will call me out on it a lot, but I will call my clients out on it too, and I will be like, hey, I'm just going to say this call, you've been focused on all the shit you're doing wrong. Even though I started on this call and I asked you what's been going good, you keep going back to the bad things. And I said, you need to stop this right now. Like, we're done. We're done with the negative thinking. And I want you to stop listening to the news. I want you to stop listening to all the shitty shit on social media. I want you to start filling your mind with good, positive material. Like, listen to our podcast. Like, go listen to some like uplifting music. Like, my mom always sends, he always sends me like motivational videos. Motivational videos, like follow people that lift you up because the way you talk to yourself is the way that your life will be. And this will help you also overcome emotional eating and binge eating. And I agree, Mom. Like, it doesn't just happen overnight, but you have to work on the way you talk to yourself. Because I see a lot of my clients, they'll binge and they'll be like, I really screwed up. I was really bad. And I'm like, what were you bad at? And then they'll tell me they had like an extra like 3 cookies. And I'm like, so I was like thinking you like murdered someone when you came to me on this call because you were so worried. And I said, you're still a really good person. And this is not a morality issue. This is an issue of you had a few extra cookies and you're a human.
Hmm.
Period. That's it. You know, it's like these women struggle to humanize themselves and they think, "Oh, if I'm not perfect, I might as well quit." And so that's also a mindset thing is like that comes back to a place of like, "Okay, so what? I had 4 extra cookies. The rest of the day I was pretty damn good. Like I worked out, I went on a walk, I had some chicken for dinner and I had some good carbohydrates. And then, you know, I had an oopsie, but the rest of the day was good." That's the shift I think for a lot of women. But a lot of women get stuck in the I screwed up. Well, whatever, might as well quit. Let's go to Crumble Cookie and go get a box of 4 and let's have a good time. Like that's kind of where it starts and then it just continues. So, yeah.
Yeah, well said, Coach. I couldn't agree more. I love what you said about the mindset of like the all or nothing. I feel like a lot of clients that come through, or even women that we talk to, it's not even their fault that it's an all or nothing because if they've been on a program, it was kind of like geared that way, where it was like, okay, you can't have this carb, this sweets, this chocolate, this, that's bad. Then you put that stuff on a pedestal. So when you're stressed, what's the first thing human nature you're gonna want? And once you get a hold of it, you're gonna be like, well, I really shouldn't be eating this. So I'm just gonna eat all of it that I want now because tomorrow I'm starting over. And then it's like a never ending cycle you find yourself in, all or nothing. Like, well, we take that pressure off and we're like, when we talk to our clients, we're like, there's nothing off limits unless you're obviously allergic or you don't like it. We're not gonna make you eat anything you don't like. We don't do
Yep.
meal plans unless some clients do like meal plans, but we rather teach you how to eat your own food. Um, and we don't say foods are good or bad. They don't have any moral compass or anything. They're just food. And some foods are good for like soul foods. Like Camille said, no food
Soul foods.
every food is good for you like in different ways. Just some are, we recommend certain ones because of nutritional value, how it makes you feel mentally, more energy. But sometimes, let's be real, like especially if you've been on a restrictive diet for a while and you have a little bit of something sweet, it's like amazing. It's not a bad thing if you do it in moderation. So we make
Yeah.
sure we don't do the all or nothing. We make sure you realize that you can have chocolate every day if you want. You can have some chips every day. We just show you how to do it and still achieve your goals by, prioritizing other foods, but you can still have those foods. They're not bad.
Yeah. There should never be off limit foods at any honestly like even like at the level I'm at, like, you know, with competing, like I'm going to be competing as like a pro, like a professional bodybuilder this year, which is so fun for me. I will never get to the point where I fully restrict myself from the foods I love because I know what that leads to. It's going to lead me to a place of binging and restricting myself. Um, to a place where I literally I don't want to go there. I don't want I was there and that was at my very heaviest weight. I was completely out of control with food. I felt like food controlled me. And so, no matter where you are, like for the women listening to this, whether it's just like you want to just reach a certain physique, or I have a lot of women who follow me who are maybe wanting to step on stage, or, you know, maybe you're just, I don't know, like you just want to get to that next level of body composition. The worst thing you can do is think, I need to restrict harder. I need to restrict more because I promise you it will blow up in your face and it will probably lead you back to a place where you don't want to be. So I've learned this way too many times. Like you should always incorporate foods you love. And if you have moments where you overconsume, like my mom said, like focus on your wins. Think about all the things you did do well at. And then learn from it. Learn from it and be like, okay, well, maybe next, like, okay, I'll use this weekend as an example. My sister Alexis, she lives like 10, 15 minutes. Okay, 15 minutes away from me. She always has baked goods. I swear that girl's like, she's more domestic than me and she lives with roommates. And so she always has like all these amazing and she's such a good baker. She's like you, mom. She just anything she makes, it's like so delicious. So I went over to her house and she had these like cookie bars with like cookie butter in the middle.
Oh, love cookie
And
butter.
like I was not planning on eating it, but like I wasn't gonna say no to her. And every time I go with her, I always expect she's gonna have treats. So I always am kind of like, okay, I'm gonna like allocate, 300 to 400 extra calories, literally, because I know whatever she makes is probably got gobs of carbs and gobs of butter and sugar. And so I go over there and I eat it, and I was like, wow, that was amazing. But guess what? The old me would have been like, I can't eat this. I can't eat this. And one of two things, I would have said, okay, just send it home with me. And I would have eaten all of it on my way home. Or I would have gone home and been like, I couldn't eat that. So I'm going to go buy cookies or I'm going to make cookies and I'm going to eat them all by myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I used to do. And so like I've learned to just like live in the moment. I have a decision. I can say I can have it. I know if I'm going to spend time with my sister Alexis and we're going to go to her house, she's going to have some yummy treats. And so I always am like, okay, well, she's going to have yummy treats. I'm just going to plan ahead for that. And that's okay. But I think a lot of women think like, oh, well, I can't have that because, XYZ. No, just eat it. Give yourself permission, eat it, own it. And you know what? I totally blew over all my calories because I did the macros on her cookie bars. It was like it was like 20 grams of fat and it was like 50 carbs for one square. And I sent it to her and I sent a picture of the macros and she goes, oh, damn, that's a lot. And I said, yeah, but it was worth it. It was so good.
So
But you
good.
know what? You know what happened though? Nothing. Guess what? Nothing happened after that. I didn't magically gain 7 pounds from that because I just said, you know what? I went over my calories a couple hundred. It is what it is. Tomorrow I'll do a little bit better. And yes, I saw her the next day and I also had a cookie bar that day. But luckily I had some extra calories left over. I still blew over my calories that day too. Sometimes that happens, guys. Like that's just part of it. And I feel like a lot of women think like, oh, well, in order to look like Brooklyn or look like Camille or look like Amanda or look like Dakota, like I have to be so strict. But the thing is, we aren't that strict. Even if we're
Mm-hmm.
coming into shows, I still have literally, I told this story. I don't think I told this story on a live podcast, but 2 weeks before I won my pro card, we went to Disneyland with my family. We go to Disney so much. It's kind of disgusting. But we went to Disneyland and for 2 days straight, I ate so much chocolate because they had the Oogie Boogie Bash and we had these
Oh,
massive bags and it's candy from Disneyland, so it's magical and it tastes better. So I just ate a lot of it and I remember one day I added it up and Jordan was like, "How much extra do you think you ate?" Because I went to him and I was like, "I'm not competing." Like I was literally giving up on my goals because I overate for 2 days. And he goes, "Well, how much do you think you ate?" And I said, "I'm just gonna like add it up and just try to remember." It was like an extra 800 to probably 1,000 calories in just chocolate per day. That was an extra 2,000 calories I consumed and I felt it. My weight went up. I was puffy. I was bloated. And here I was about ready to give up on a goal that I had worked towards all year long. And I even had like a free entry to this competition. And I was about ready to throw my hands up because I overate for 2 days. For 2 freaking days out of the whole year. Like out of all the times, I had 2 days of overconsuming. Luckily, I have a great husband who talked me off the ledge and said, "No, you're gonna do the damn show. It's fine. Just get back on track. Like you're fine. Like it's chocolate. It's fine. Like you'll be okay. Just drink water, move your body." And guess what? I went in and I actually like that's when I actually accomplished this goal I've been working towards all year. But I feel like that's a really good story because I feel like for some women they think like if I'm not 100%, I'm never gonna reach my goal. But like my story just proved that but maybe that's the whole point. Like maybe the whole point is like you don't need to be 100% all the way through. Maybe you might have a few days where you're like 20-30%. But then the majority of the time you're at like 80-90%. Why bag it if you had a few off days or even a week off? And I think that's where the binge eating comes into place is cuz I
mm-hmm.
could have easily been like screw it. You know what? I ate chocolate for 2 days. I might as well just finish all this chocolate. But luckily, like I have my husband in my corner who talks me off the ledge and he goes, okay, like maybe we shouldn't leave the chocolate out in the middle of the hotel room. So you, every time you pass it, you have like seven. I'm like, yeah, you're right. So I feel like sometimes too, like, I don't know, we sabotage ourselves before we have a chance to even reach our goals, you know? So
Oh
anyways,
yeah.
that was a long story. I hope that helps someone.
But that's life. I mean, life, that's just life. You've got to allow for those things because we are most of the time really good. And if you if you could add up all the calories you eat within a week, and if you don't binge, and if you start eating that more nutritiously through the week, think of all the food you can eat. And that's what these girls do in their coaching. That's what we all do is you reframe, you reteach it. And when you start seeing that in your life, like, oh my gosh, this is really working. And that's what's exciting. But that is life. I mean, we're going to have things happen. And like Brooklyn, I love that story because I think your body needed that extra food for you to step on stage and look as killer as you did. Like you won your pro card. I mean, that is a great story, but that's how our life goes. We've got to allow for those things. And like my coach has upped my calories again. And I have 2 cheat days. My food is so high right now. And there's something in me that is scary to gain weight. Like I don't want to gain weight. And even Dakota last night, she's like, Mom, you have another cheat day. I'm like, but I don't want to eat that much. And I've kind of gone a little bit lower on the days before because I'm like, I don't want to gain weight. There's just something in me. And so last night I did take it as another cheat meal, which is totally in my plan. But there's something in us that, you just want to get by, skirt by on the lowest amount of calories. But if you can
Hmm.
up it a little bit, your body adjusts and your body likes it. And you'll just keep getting stronger and stronger. Like last week, we talked about getting stronger. Make that your goal this year. Let's just get stronger and start empowering ourselves and fueling ourselves with the right foods, but also have your treats. And your binging will go down. Like it's crazy how that works. It's the
Hmm.
coolest thing ever. But you guys have got great stories on this. And life is just, it's life. We're always going to have things come at us and kick us out of nowhere, and then we've got to relearn it and remember all the things that we've learned before. And it just gets easier and easier as you implement it and remember all the good that we've done before. So much good that we've done, right? I mean, when you get on this journey, there's just a lot of good that our bodies do for us. And as we keep healing our mind with our eating, it's so cool. It's so cool how it works together. So that's
Yeah.
my
I love that. Thank you. I think it's wonderful. And Brooklyn, I love that you shared with the audience and with all the queens listening and hopefully future queens that I am sure they look at you because I've had people come up to me and be like, "Oh, your boss is Brooklyn." Like she probably never has an off day, and I'm like, "Well, you would think." And I thought too. I said, "But she openly talks about it because that's the difference with our coaching. We understand, we've been there, and we don't expect perfection. Perfection is unattainable, and honestly, it's boring. Like, who wants like Coach Brooklyn said, who wants to eat what tilapia and asparagus every day? Like, I know I don't. I don't care if they're like, this will be your dream body and how much time for sure. Like, that's gonna get old real quick. You're gonna
Yeah.
miss out on family functions, on Disney trips. I mean, come on. If you've ever been to Disney, their food is like, it tastes way better than anywhere else. And if you are going to be like, I can't eat this, you're going to not
Yeah.
enjoy your life. It's going to be miserable. And that's where a coach comes in. It's like when I was a client, I think I talked about this before, is when Coach Booker was my coach, I was astonished because I've had coaches before her that like you're going to Disney or you're going wherever, you track, you stay on point, you get back, you still lose weight. I'm like, okay. So it wasn't much fun. And then she goes, well, you're going to take a mental and a physical break from tracking. You're not going to track. You're going to be present with your family. You're going to take what we've learned together and eat, your protein first and, things that we've incorporated and learned. And you're going to give yourself 2 treats a day. And I was like, two? I was like, I get 2 Mickey treats every day. And I was like, okay. I was like, this is all right. I came back. Of course, scales up a couple pounds of water weight from the carbs. But then a couple days later, my weight stabilized back to where it was before the trip, and then it went down an extra pound. And I was like, I
Mm-hmm.
gain weight easily. I am not one of those girls. It's like I can eat what I want. And I was just blown away. And she was like, yeah, because your stress level's down, your cortisol's down. You sometimes need a diet break. You were enjoying yourself. You were walking at Disney like crazy. She's like, you don't need to be perfect all the time to have that physique you want and to feel better. And I was just blown away because my calories were, I mean, blown out of the water, I'm sure. And it just goes to show that a few days, a week, here and there, it's not gonna make you like go backwards to the point where you're like, oh, I started over. I'm like, no, it never gets to that point unless you quit for like a year. You're not gonna start over. You just had a little rough patch, or you just want to enjoy yourself, which is you should be allowed to, and then just keep going. It's amazing that when you realize that with the right people in your corner, the right tools, the right, learning the right things, that you can enjoy your life and reach your goals and not feel guilty about it. You shouldn't.
I love that. I think that's where a lot of women get stuck, is they think like they just either need to be rigid 100% of the time, which leads to total burnout. Let's be honest. It leads to burnout. If you feel like you have to be 100% all the time, what an exhausting place to live in. And also like there needs to be some like flexibility. And yeah, when it comes to emotional eating, like there has to be the ability to like eat the foods you love too. I guess like, let's kind of wrap up this podcast and talk about I guess like the top 5 things, or 3, I don't care, whatever, however many we can come up with, that women should focus on if they're struggling with binge eating. I would say for me, the number one thing is not having a list of foods you can and cannot eat. And that's for me was the biggest game changer, like giving myself permission, even when I am literally like, one thing I always do right before I compete is I will fly, on an airplane usually. Uh, and I will have a cookie. I will have like a little cookie that they give me like on flight, and yeah, I eat that the day before the show or 2 days before the show. And I like said that to someone, they're like, oh my gosh, like, aren't you worried you're gonna bloat? I'm like, from a cookie? No, I've been eating cookies all prep. Like, that's not gonna make me bloat. It's gonna be fine. Um, Give yourself permission to eat the foods you love through your entire journey, because that's setting you up for success, like for the rest of your life. Because your life is not a box of you eating the same foods all the time every day and never adding foods in that you love. That's not life, and that's not living either, and that sucks. So that, I would say, that's my number one thing, is eat the foods you love. And if you do have a list of foods you can and can't eat in the program or coach you're with, you probably should step away and let them go, because they do not understand that emotional eating is a problem. So, that's my biggest thing. What about you, Amanda? What about you, Mom? What are your biggest things for overcoming emotional eating?
Great. I love what you said. I think that's huge. Yeah, not restricting and having the right coach, right person to make sure that you're not under eating. That's just going to add fuel to the fire. And I would say, like I said before, honestly, somebody that gets it, so they know that mindset of when you're having that really stressful moment where you just you want like that relief, and you want, just to eat that food in an abundance, but you really don't want to. You just don't know what to do. You need help. So that's when you
Yeah.
need to have someone that understands your specific triggers, what helps you, because not every woman's so unique, and that's what's great about Fierce Queen. We make sure we get to know each and every individual client, because one woman's triggers is not going to match another. What time she eats, how she binges, what she chooses to binge on, when it's starting to escalate. So it's important for someone to really dive deep and to get to know all that stuff about you and like what triggers, and that way they can help. You can work together, and they can be like, I got you, text me when you start to feel this emotion, we'll go through this skill, we'll do this together. And it just becomes easier and easier and easier because you have that support, the guidance, and the tools now.
Yeah. I love that. I love
I
that.
do too.
So, having, honestly, good support, good coaching. And then what about for you, Mom? I feel like you were very mindset heavy. Is that
I
still, well, you tell us. You
I
tell
will.
us. What is yours?
The one thing is give yourself a big hug. Just give yourself a big hug and say, it's okay. It's okay. I probably needed this. And I will just wake up, do better the next morning. I will not restrict myself because that's going to lead to it again. But give yourself the biggest hug and say, I love you and you're getting this. You're going to get this. You just keep going. So that's mine.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, that's really powerful.
Healthy talk. I love that.
Yeah, mindset goes a long way, and your self-talk goes a long way when it comes to emotional eating. Really, like your whole journey. That's something. Yeah, it's hard to do. I feel like it's hard to do. Women's really struggle to be nice to themselves. They'll be nice to other people, but they struggle with their own inner dialogue. So I love that you said that, Mom. Like, focus on the things you are doing well and be kind to yourself and good to yourself. So, for those listening to this, I hope that this, podcast today was helpful for you and educational for you. I hope it gave you some guidance and things you can start working on, or maybe things start changing, or maybe like some extra support that you need. If you've been listening to these podcasts or listening to this and you're like, man, I really need some support and help and coaching. Fierce Queen Fitness, we are currently accepting working with women. We really specialize working with women 30, 40, 50 and up, helping them overcome their really any struggles that they're coming up against. But we really do work on the relationship with food, hormonal health, metabolic health, and also like getting our clients to that dream body composition that they've been wanting to get to in the right way. I should say we do it in a very healthy, sustainable way. So if you're interested in working with myself, Coach Amanda, Coach Camille, or Coach Dakota, and we also have Coach Jordan, go ahead and comment below, Fierce Queen, or find us on social media and comment below, or comment or message us coaching. And we would really appreciate if you guys could go and leave us some reviews on whatever place you're listening to this on. It really helps not only us to improve, but it helps us, to reach other women who are also struggling. And please share this with people in your life who you feel like would benefit from it as well. Did you guys want to add anything today before we go ahead and end the
I think
podcast?
that's perfectly said. Yeah, well said.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. Bye. We'll see you next
Bye,
week.
Bye.
Queen.